Welcome to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Good afternoon now, Dr. Kwende. How are you?
Wonderful, Dr. Webb. Good afternoon. How are you?
I am very well. So happy that we're here as we are at least monthly over the last year, right? It's been over a year now.
Yes.
And our focus is on the wealth equation, which we're going to come back to in a second, folks. Thank you for joining us. We're so pleased that you're here. Dr. Kwende is a remarkable professional, a beautiful husband, father, making a difference on this planet. And I am so honored to work in collaboration with him as just a humble spirit. And today, our title, thanks to both of us, is Leveraging the Wealth Formula, the tax and beyond. Leveraging the wealth formula this tax season and beyond. What do you say about that, Dr. Kwende?
Yeah, I think it's very appropriate. One of the key elements of being able to build wealth is to understand, how to keep the money that you make. And even though we're not here to give tax advice, you still have to know how taxes impact your wealth, because that's one of the main components of wealth building, right? So I'm always excited to to do anything that talks about being able to create, preserve, and transfer wealth.
You
And
got it.
taxes seems to be one of those for sure.
Yeah. And your point is on point. We're not tax experts. We're not here to talk about taxes in particular. We're here to talk about how to leverage whatever savings you have to your advantage in order to grow. And as Dr. Kwende nicely put it, really protect and leverage those funds into the future. And ideally, uh, creating and sustaining generational wealth. So I think we probably should start first with defining the wealth formula. So if you don't mind, I'll take a initial step and then you just jump in and add
Please.
your brilliance. And then I want to slow down and then have us talk a little bit about our respective backgrounds so that people understand that we come from a place of a humble space, and we also come from places of knowing. And we are continuously engaged in learning so that we're even much more impactful, not only for our families, for our own lives, but most importantly, for those we're looking to serve, which is millions of people around the planet. And Dr. Kwende will share his um, uh, brilliant vision that he shared before. I'd like for him to restate it, and I'll complement it and do the same. So the wealth formula is what? Not earth shattering, and yet a reminder, at least for many, and maybe insightful to others. Money plus time plus or minus rate of return minus inflation minus taxes equals the financial wealth formula, right? Money plus time. In fact, I want to show this to folks as we're sharing this. Money plus time plus or minus the rate of return minus inflation minus taxes equals the financial wealth formula. And I want to say something, and Dr. Kwende is going to illuminate more, that is a little bit more than just those key 5 features. And yet, those are the fundamentals. Dr. Kwende.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, just leave the formula on. So money, we have to make income. That's the money that we make, right? But to make money, first of all, we have some money we already saved, but you transform your time, your effort into money. That's why time adds to your money typically. But depending on where you put the money, you can either make or lose money. That's a plus minus rate of return. Inflation always reduces the value of your money, and taxes always take away from your money, right? So the key is to understand this. And then the question is, how do you make sure, for example, the rate of return that you take out the negative, so it's always positive? because that's something you can do. How do you minimize the impact of inflation? You really can't, because you're not the one controlling inflation. You and I don't do that, right? So that's something we can't really work on. Taxes, you have some control because you have to know the system and the rules, right? So we have a lot of play in how we determine what our financial outcome is by understanding these key elements right here.
Yes, and if we were to break it down even further, money is what? It allows people to obtain what they want in addition to what they need to live, right? It's the means of exchange. It's what we consider to be the acceptable commodity that allows us to exchange those resources for goods and services. It also facilitates trade within and across countries, let alone within businesses in the United States, as an example, or in another country. And it is the principal measure of wealth, right? Until something else becomes a principal measure of wealth. Yes, we know that there are some countries and some locations that barter a lot. And actually, there are a lot of bartering activities across the country, including in the United States where we are located. And yet, the power is understanding the means of exchange in a way where we're able to leverage our time to bring in more, to access more, leverage the different instruments, which we'll talk about to some degree, but we can provide more details even after this conversation, one-on-one, or even in group form to your business leaders, to our community, to your family. Yet we also want to talk about how you can have your money work harder for you than you work for it. And that's why we wanted you to really think about this wealth formula. So you go beyond the notion of working hard for your money, yet go far beyond that to say, how can your money work harder for you? Anything you want to add to just the power of money and what it allows us to do?
Yeah, I mean, money just gives you the freedom to get the stuff that you want without wasting time, right? In the sense of the exchange, right? When they used to do trade by barter, if I'm looking for to rent a house, to buy a house, I have to find someone that, has the stuff that I have, which is very difficult to do. So money it eases the exchange component of it, right? So you don't have to be looking for a particular person. You use the money and then you can exchange for whatever you want, right? But at the end of the day, the time is how you actually create wealth, how you make money with your time. Now, when you were saying that, I was just thinking like each one of us has 24 hours a day. So when we look at time from that perspective in terms of making money, then we should all almost have the same amount of money. But how is it that some people have way more money than others? Because they understand how to leverage time. And that's one of the things I wasn't told growing up, going to school. They just said, oh, go make the most money per hour, right? But that's how you become wealthy. You have to understand how to leverage each of these components correctly.
Yeah, and I love the example that we've discussed before, where you describe the a soccer player who's playing for millions of people, and he earns millions of dollars, versus the employee who's working per hour, earning per hour resources, or even an executive in an organization that's working on behalf of, could be 100 people, 1,000 individuals, 10,000 individuals, and yet they're earning significantly less. And you say, where's the value of what they do less? And you wouldn't say the value is necessarily less, especially depending upon what it is. It may actually be more because more people are being impacted by that new invention or that transformative solution, whatever it happens to be. And yet, the individual on the field who's playing soccer to millions of people is getting paid based upon what? How would you describe it even more profoundly? I love it.
I love that. I have my three kids, and my two boys play soccer, and my daughter loves to dance. And I told them, it's kind of interesting that without even really knowing, I was pushing them to do these things, and I helped them do it. But now that I understand how it really works, I'm grateful that I did, that my wife and I were able to do that. Because like you said, a soccer player like Messi makes a lot more money kicking around a sack of air, I call it, right, than a university professor teaching the next medical doctors. So it's not that soccer is more important. than medicine, but it's a question of how they get paid, right? So a university professor, if they teach 100 medical doctors a year and they do that for 20 years, they're going to teach 2,000 doctors that are willing to pay the money. But if Messi is playing soccer in the field, millions of people are watching both in the stadium and on TV that are willing to pay. So he gets paid based on how many people are paying rather than how important it is what he does. And that's the part that most of us miss. We want to go do a lot of education, have a lot of knowledge, and do important stuff, but we don't understand the concept of leverage.
Mhm. And that's a piece that I said the equation is more than just the money, the time, the rate of return, the inflation and taxes. Leverage is embedded throughout all of that. And that's powerful. Yeah, it's remarkable. We'll come back to that. And maybe we just spend a session on leverage. What do you think, Dr. Kwende?
I think that because that if you're a business owner, that's the key word that you have to be aware of, right? And that's what makes all the difference,
Yeah.
right? About whether you're wealthy or not. Even the money part of it. If you want to buy a house, for example, usually you cannot use your own money because you don't have, most of us don't have enough money to buy the house. So you leverage other people's money. It's called a loan. We have to know the game, right? So that there's so many things you have to understand when it comes to leverage. So that's the keyword. I agree totally. Yes.
The other part of time is what's referred to often as TVM, right? Time value money. So the sooner one takes advantage of her, his, or their savings, places it into some kind of instrument, whatever it hits, and we're not being prescriptive. We can share a lot of different instruments because of our expertise. Yet we want you to know that when you place it in particular instruments, you can not only protect, and you could have that money working harder for you than you worked for it. And the sooner you do it, the in relationship to time, the better off you are, especially as it relates to a particular dream you have or set of goals you've established. And that's something that we kind of, oh, I have time. Oh, I have time. I'll do it later. Okay. So you're 20. You're going to do it when you're what? I'll do it when I'm 25. Well, I'm a little bit tired. I'll wait until 30. I have plenty of time. I'm young. If, I'm going to live to at least 60. So, and you're now 50. How much time do you have? Had you started when you were aware, when you became cognizant of an option that actually would provide you with protection, and you leveraged it, to use that word that Dr. Kwende and I so reinforce here. And he stated today, we leverage that time. You leverage that time. The time you're 50, you perhaps are retiring, not waiting to 60, 65, or 70, 75 when you really want to retire at 50. You're able to just release. That's what we're talking about time. Also, is leveraging time to get to where you are imagining yourself being in the out years. Don't wait until you're 50 to imagine where you want to be. Don't wait until you're 80 and you're 60 to imagine where you want to be. Imagine now, create the conditions now so that you are living, you are just dancing down the path, or if you prefer to just sing down the path, or you just prefer to just jingle down the path, whatever you enjoy, you're there. And it really is enjoyment. And the noise that we talked about before, Dr. Kwende and I've talked about before, just turn it off and turn up your own dreams, your own passions, and act now. Time is essential now. So, what else can we say about rate of return beyond the fact that it could be negative, it could be positive? We want people to know that literally there are opportunities to guarantee minimal loss, if any, and to ensure some level of rate of return. In fact, there are instruments that will guarantee some rates of returns, period, and that may outperform what you would experience if you're in a very high volatile space with your resources. What do you say, Dr. Kwende?
Yeah, so basically, rate of return, most people want growth of their money, right? So that's kind of how we call it. It says growth. But when you understand it, there are essentially three key ways that your money can grow, right? So the first one is called fixed. So let's say you have a CD at the bank and they pay you 1%, for example, whatever the percent is. That's called fixed return. So every year you get the same growth rate, right? Then the second one is what they call variable. So it can go up sometimes, it can go down sometimes. Then the last one is called indexed. That means if the market goes down, you keep what you have, but if it goes up, you make a gain. Goes up, you keep what you have. It's called index return. So that in essence, there are three types of rates of return that you can have just for the understanding of it. Right? There's a fixed, there's a variable, and then there's the indexed. Right? That's kind of how I like to explain it, just so people understand how to think about it.
Mhm. Yes, and the key thing about fix, it's a misnomer because fix is all relative, right? If inflation, which is another aspect of this equation or this formula, if inflation is higher than the fixed amount, you're actually losing money, right? Because people think, oh, it's fixed, I'm not going to lose my money. Really? So if you've got an X amount of dollars and your fixed rate is 1%, and or let's say it's better, it's 4%. Well, what is inflation right now? I, I I'm not happy to share this, but I think it's helpful to share this. So what is inflation right now? It's 8.5%. And normally, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Kwende, inflation when it's high historically, it's been 2.5, it's been 3%. That's considered high. Now it's 8.5, right?
Yeah,
That's
this is a little scary, yeah.
that's scary. And so if you're earning, what did I say? I think I said 5, and inflation is 8, you're losing 3% of the purchasing power on your dollar. And that's why we say be very mindful of the rate of return. Now, there's some fixed rate of returns you're okay with. We say you make the decision based upon your goals, go with it. There's some variable counts you think, oh my God, this is an opportunity. And you make that decision, let it be an informed decision because you look at history, yet you cannot predict with any kind of crystal ball or otherwise, unless there's someone on the planet, and there it's possible, who already has an all-knowing understanding. I don't know that. I don't know if Dr. Quinde has ever met anyone like that. So we can't predict the future. We can say what happened historically and suggest that this is possible, but we can't say for certain. Yet, index, wow, when I mention index to people, Dr. Quinde, most people look at me glassy eyed. They've never heard of it. And quite frankly, while I heard of the word index, I didn't know it in a financial context until I was nearly 62, and I'm 63. Was I 61? I think I was. And I say this, but I was serious. I wanted to kick myself. But Dr. Quinde, it was humanly impossible for me to kick myself. And I was like, oh no, I've got to find out. So I read these different books, The Power of Zero, The Financial Pocket Knife, oh my goodness, Doug Andrews' book. What is it? The Laser Fund. I mean, I just went crazy reading. And I'm so pleased because now I understand something that has been available, resources that have been available for years, right? Indexing is powerful. I don't know what else I can say about it other than say contact one or both of us and we will give you more explicit details. But would you like to share more, Dr. Quinde?
Yeah, for me, it's always important, I think, for people to just understand what's going on, right? The truth is that most of the time, because we are financially illiterate as a people generally, we don't pay attention to basic money concepts. I mean, I was through myself when I started really understanding it. That's kind of what raised my curiosity and decided to leave my career to get into the financial space because I started to understand that most people have no clue what's actually going on at all, and the system is not designed to tell you, right? And the system requires that you actually talk to a licensed professional to know the things that you need to know. Unfortunately, maybe 95% of the population don't go to a financial professional, right? Only 5% do. And there's something I tell people, which is most of us, to be in health, in good health, we have to do a medical health check all the time. Like annually, you're supposed to go do a medical health check, right? When I ask people, when's the last time you did a financial health check, they look at me like, what is that? Right? But when I used to go to a financial advisor, I was required to do a financial health check annually. So when I went to Ameriprise, which is where I used to go, if you go to Charles Schultz Mid-Bani, you are expected to do a financial health check annually. That's how you stay financially healthy. So think about 95% of people not doing a financial health check, and then we're surprised we broke. Makes sense. So when I'm just saying this just to say that when you think about how society is set up, there are basic things that we all need to know, right? So like inflation, it sounds like, oh, what is that? It sounds like just some percent that they throw around. But think about it this way. If you want to buy a bottle of water like this, let's say it cost $1 this year, okay? And you have $1 right now, you can buy the bottle of water. But let's say 1 year from now, your money grows, your $1 increases in value by 4%, so you have $1.04. But inflation is 8%. That means what? The cost of this has gone up to $1.08. Can you actually buy the same water? No, you can't. That's the issue of inflation. And I said, because some people go like, oh, what does that really mean? It's you being able to afford the same things that you were able to afford before. So your $1 grows to $1.04, but the water grows in cost to $1.08.5, you are in trouble. That's what happens when people are saving money for retirement, but they don't understand how little things like inflation can impact their ability to live the same lifestyle.
And the reason why we say negative taxes is because if we're earning money, any one of us, at least in the US, we're paying taxes. And so the question is, first of all, for folks who know taxes, they pay taxes, but don't really understand it. It's really a primary source for what? For revenue of most governments, including the United States. And at the local, at the statewide level, at the national level, to improve and maintain public infrastructure, also to provide public services like schools, emergency funds, etc. So, and yet there's something called fair share. We want people to understand, if you're like me, wanting to pay taxes, because you want to contribute to the infrastructure, emergency services, etc. You also are probably like me. You don't want all your money going to taxes, so you want to leverage options that will allow you to minimize the amount of taxes, still contributing, but minimize, paying the fair share, but not overdoing it. And so a lot of folks say, in the areas of taxes, as Dr. Kwende can more eloquently convey with a brilliant story, and that is, so you could either be taxed now in your earnings, you can be taxed later, we call it tax deferred, or you can be tax advantage. And we know folks who are in all buckets, all three buckets, and yet where you gain the more response is to be taxed once. And yet many people are being taxed twice. And they're like, what? I earn my money, I pay taxes, I take my savings, I put it in the bank, I put it in a CD, I put it in wherever I put it so I can access it. Okay. And then annually, what do? You pay taxes on those, the growth of those earnings, right? Or yeah. And then you put some money tax deferred. And so what happens when you take it out? You pay taxes on the original earnings and you pay taxes on the growth. Yet there's a way for you to literally just pay taxes once if you've earned that money. You can just literally place whatever savings into a tax advantage account and not have to pay taxes again. You just pay it on the original earnings and you're done. That's what we want people to understand. You get to pay your fair share and then leverage in order to ensure your money can compound and have the kind of growth that demonstrates your money is working harder for you than you worked for it. Anything you want to add to that as an example, Dr. Kwende?
Yeah. So
Or even correct me, because
no, basically, the way I like to think about it is that every financial vehicle has multiple components that we're supposed to look at, right? So if you take like the bank account, or you take your 401k, whatever, or your stocks, you have to think about the growth. What's the rate of return? You have to think about, if you pay fees, for example, you have to think about how it gets taxed, how you access the money when you need it, right? I'm just saying there are multiple aspects that we're supposed to look at. Unfortunately, because most people don't understand how money works, they just pick one aspect and that's all that they go by, right? So one of the ways that I try to educate people about money or financial vehicles is to do a matrix where I put about 5 to 8 different components of how to look at the tool. When you see it in comparison, it makes all the difference as to which one makes sense or not. But when we talk about it casually, we don't look at all the different aspects of it. So that's how people get limited in their understanding of what they should have, right? So if I talk about, for example, when it comes to tax treatment of your financial vehicle, there are essentially 3 key buckets, right? The first bucket is what they call tax now. So like Dr. Webb said, if you put your money like in the bank, every year, any gain that you make will be taxed. So they tax you all the time, every year. That's called tax now, okay? But if you put your money in something like a 401k or an IRA, it's tax deferred. So you're going to pay the tax later. While you put the money, you don't pay any taxes as it's growing. You don't pay any taxes. But when you take the money out, you're going to pay the taxes. But there's what they call tax advantage, which means you pay the taxes right now, like in your Roth IRA. But then later on, when it grows, you don't pay taxes anymore. So you only pay one time. If you pay tax now, every year you're going to pay. If you pay tax now, you're going to pay one time later. But this is the point, though. You have to understand the environment, and it's based on your personal perception. So in the US, I understand that, because of the debt that we have, because of Social Security liability, it's more than likely that taxes are going to be going up rather than down, right? So that means if somebody told me to defer my taxes till later, and this is my point, if you have to understand it, if your perception that taxes are going to go down, then great, it makes sense to do it. But if you believe taxes are going to go up, why would it be an advantage to delay the taxes so you're going to pay more? And for me, I'm not deciding for someone how they see it. I just want them to be aware of how to look at it. If they tell me I believe taxes are going to go up, then I'm asking so do you think it makes sense to delay the taxes and pay more? They said, absolutely not. So I said, why do you do it? All because I'm told to do it.
Yeah, and what's powerful is when we share real facts with individuals, they're surprised. Most people don't know that taxes were at an all-time high in this country, even in the 40s, early 50s. In 1944, they're at 94%. And yes, they did go down, and even appreciably. In 1992, finally went down to 31%. And then it went back up in 2000 to 39%. Now, the highest tax rate level is 37%. But during the 70s, it was 70%. Folks just think it's the highest it's ever been, yet it's not. And that's what we're talking about. Those who are viewing, we want you to know some of the basic facts. You don't have to know all the history. We don't know all the history. No financial leader knows everything, yet we know different kinds of things that will be illuminating, that will help you make the right or the smart strategic decision for you, your family, your business. And that's what this is about. So when we talk about rates historically high, well, this year taxes are going to go back up to who is it? What year is this? It was
I think it was supposed to
39%.
be 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it's going to go back up to 39%. Yet last year, our current president was quoted in one of the major national publications as indicating that taxes are expected to rise as much as 43.7%. Let me just say something. It really doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or whether it's a Democrat or whether it's an independent so-called administration in the U.S. Taxes have to go up because of the math, right, Dr. Kwende? Unless that 30 trillion that's growing quickly, it's no more than 30 trillion. I don't even know what it is now. It was 30 trillion last year. National debt is arrested and reduced remarkably. Taxes are going to go up unless there's another means to bring in resources for Social Security that was created. When it was created, there was 40 something people working to one person retired. And then when the book, what is it, The Power of Zero came out several years ago, there was less than 3 people working to one person retired. Unless something happens differently there, taxes are going to go up. So we're not saying we want taxes to go up. We're not saying you should change your strategy. You may have a great strategy given your goals. We're saying be cognizant of key information so that you make the right decision for yourself, for your family, for your business. And we're there's something I'd like to highlight just on a kind of, I don't even know if we call it optimistic, but just where the opportunity for tax return savings. I'd love to throw out some ideas. And so one, of course, people can place it in interest earning accounts, which we highly recommend, where you're able to leverage that money and the interest that accrues on that money for building a legacy, literally a legacy for your family or a legacy for your business for that matter. And then at the same time, ensure proper protection, emergency funds. If you have bad debt, eliminate them. Want to fund retirement of more employees, you have more resources to invest, or for your own family. Build dreams. Build for your dreams. Establish your family legacy. Legacy, 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 we always say. And then provide for your children, their education, whether they're in K through 12, special support, college education. Build your business. Pay off unnecessary expenses, not only bad debt, and travel, have fun. What else did you add to that? But first, invest those resources. What do you say, Dr. Kwende?
And yeah, so the concept of wealth is supposed to be very comprehensive in how we think about it. And for me, it's been, kind of exciting to be exposed to the concept of wealth building, right? I spent my entire life basically working and trying to create stuff. Like in the companies, I'll do like I do like a patent, then we create a business idea, and then we give it to the company. And they go make or don't make money, but at least they have something to work with, right? But I never really understood that I could sort of do something that would benefit me more directly. Because in the company setting, at least my experience was that even though I was at a very high level, most of the stuff that I did was actually what controlled by the company more for their benefit, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but I put myself in that position. But once I understood what was possible and what is going on, I decided to break away altogether. I was like, all out. I'm like, I have to change my family's future, financial future for good. And that's why I took some drastic steps, right? First to learn, which it took me like 4 years to understand it. And then to actually go spend all of my time trying to make sure that I could help other people, right? And the thing about time, when you put the wealth equation, I say something, I hope it makes sense when I say it. If I clean my car, I don't get paid for doing that. If I clean my house, nobody pays me for cleaning my house. But if I clean somebody else's house, I can get paid money for doing that, right? So the idea of money and time is that if you focus on just doing stuff for yourself, then you can't really get money to start building wealth or whatever, but you have to focus on doing for others. Even in our business that we have, the key of success is what trying to do for others, right? Because that's how you can exchange your time for more value when it comes to money. If you try to do the stuff just for yourself, then you kind of stuck. And that's those are little things that I think once you start to understand, you go like, hey, who can I do for? Part of what we're doing right now is we're trying to empower ordinary people with basic financial knowledge. But in the process of helping others get to their financial goals, guess what? We also get to ours. Right? So if you're listening right now, you have to understand the power of what we have. Right? And Dr. Webb just put the wealth equation. There are many different versions of the wealth equation. Okay. I know like 3 of them. The first one is the one that we had on today, which is the money plus time plus or minus rate of return minus inflation minus taxes. That's called wealth. Okay. But you also have the wealth is what? Faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And you also have wealth that says wealth equals opportunity plus mental toughness. Right. So there are different versions of the wealth equation. It amounts to the same thing, but from different perspectives.
And all of them have at their core leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage, leverage, leverage. Emmanuel writes, when looking into wealth building, the first thing we need to be clear is, are we doing it the right way? We have to consider safety, growth, guarantee, tax, liquidity, transferability. So thinking to work minimizing tax risk and components of longevity risk, like inflation, is very, very crucial. Agree with you 100%. Agreed with you 100%. So we talked about inflation, we talked about taxes, we talked about definitely rates of return, and we can't say enough about the importance of all of those, and definitely leveraging instruments that will assure consistent rates of return. I wanted us to talk a little bit about, Judith said something very nice. She says, looking good, Dr. Martin.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
when I see Dr. Martin and his wife, oh my God, they're absolutely perfectly gorgeous. So yeah, both of them know how to step out and show out. And I don't mean that lightly. And so the wealth, the formula, you just said there are 3 different ones as examples. And I just reinforce that at the core of all of them is the word or the use of leveraging. And let's talk a little bit more about leveraging. And it's more than just the obvious. When I think of leverage, I think about what I did and I was not conscious of most of my adulthood, young adulthood, or even as a child. And yet I leveraged. I came from humble beginnings. I am very grateful to a 13-year-old who had been abused, who gave birth to me and didn't have to. Could have harmed herself, could have harmed me, but she chose to give birth to me. And her sister named me, and I didn't learn until I was nearly 30 what even my first name meant. And when she told me, I was even more humbled. And so I feel a responsibility to be in partnership with Dr. Kwende and his wife and other people to make a profound difference. And that my name, Elnora or Elnora, however it's pronounced, is the light. And it was intentional, according to my birth mother sister, because she saw something in me as a little infant. And I am so honored to still be vertical when I wasn't supposed to live to the age of 20, folks. And here I am. I'm here because I have a responsibility. There's something I'm supposed to achieve. And I firmly believe that for every one of us, there's something that we're to achieve. It's not for me to say. In fact, people have affected my life without even knowing why they affected my life. And I think it's part of the great spirit, God, the universal knowing, the source from which everything comes, everything returns, everything is, ensuring that things work out as designed. I don't even know what the grand design is. What I do know is the fact that I was able to pursue whatever my mind decided it wanted to, and my heart was passionate about, and I had a burning desire for, and to achieve everything I wanted. Now, folks, I'm not exaggerating. I didn't ask for a lot, but what I asked for seemed to be unreasonable for a little kid. I asked for safety. I made it happen. I asked for security. And so I thought by going to undergrad university, I can have housing, I'd have that security. I did. I got it. And then I asked for understanding of self. And because of my educational experiences in so many different disciplines, I got it. It was overwhelming. I triangulated all these, whether it's geology, history, sociology, psychology, biology, mathematics. I just saw the interconnectedness to everything, which reminds me of my brother, Dr. Kwende, reminds me of one of my brothers and I. When we were young, we would talk about the oneness of all life. Even before I was 8 years old, and at Met, he was close to 5 years old. So this triangulating as a young adult, there's a point that I'm getting to, and I think you know me, Dr. Kwende, to know that I have a point, and that is that for some reason I was driven, and I didn't even know why I was driven. I was driven to give, and so I was humble and able to give. And even though being diagnosed as mentally retarded in grade school, and then ending up in 2 PhD programs at the University of California at Berkeley, one of the top public institutions on the planet, um, go figure. I went with what I felt. I went with what I knew. And even though I was more ignorant than aware, I became more knowledgeable. And so I led in higher education thanks to working with brilliant people, being able to hire some brilliant people, be able to leverage brilliant people who were there. And I grew and I grew and I grew. And so it wasn't surprising I was able to become a college president. I was able to do much more. And then I retired thinking, what am I doing? I'm retiring so young. And yet I had to readjust and get regrounded and go from higher education to financial education when I heard about indexing. That's how powerful indexing is, folks. When I heard about indexing, it shifted my trajectory from what I was doing around sourcing, planning, speaking, coaching, to aligning all those to financial education. And that's what we're doing here now. I share that little trajectory because along my path throughout it, whether it was one of my brothers, whether it was a neighborhood person who just taught me how to play the piano a little bit, or whether it was someone else in college who said, I know you have the capacity. And I'm looking around wondering who they talking about. Or someone when I am just figuring out how to help more people say, thank you. All of that was leveraging them to get to the place where I am now. But then I got to leverage folks like Dr. Kwende. I got to leverage Eric and Sandra Osen, who I'm still leveraging. I got to leverage folks who are no longer here, Bob Proctor, Bob McCabe, Pat Cross, Norton Grubb, a myriad of people who help me see the capacity in me and also see the capacity that I get to leverage systems, rules, regulations that I didn't even know exist. And when I understood them, I was able to take advantage of them. What is Maya Angelou? What did she say? She said she's one of my greatest teachers, even though I only met her once. And that was, she says, when you know better, when you know more, you can do better. Short of that, you just do what you know, right? But when you know more, you do more, or you have the capacity to, or you should. And it's the same thing with regards to education. Dr. Kwende, you and I are well educated with terminal degrees, and yet we were not well educated in financial matters to the degree that we are now. You even more so, because you've had more time to study and to enhance and to impact you and your wife and your team. Yet the power of leveraging now and honoring and respecting what you've done to this date to leverage is, I think, words, I can't find the right words to express the importance of leveraging what you're hearing now. More importantly, leveraging what you have yet to leverage in order to get to the place you want to get to.
Every time I hear your story, it's always even though I've heard it so many times, it's always like, wow, I feel blessed to be able to share the same platform with you for sure. And I hope, as whoever is listening right now, you have to understand we all bring something special to this world, right? Sometimes humans try to define what we are, right? Like Dr. Webb telling you, oh, you're not going to live to this age, or you cannot do X, Y, Z. That's humans, right? Because I believe in God and a bigger power always, I've never limited myself to what somebody else is telling me, right? So if you're listening to me right now, listening to us, no one can limit what you can achieve except you and the person that's above. Makes sense? So for me to come from, industry, doing medical devices, to be in the financial space, that's sometimes I think I'm like, that's almost not even real, right? Because I was at the top of my industry. I live in San Jose still, right? And I was in senior management, and I thought I made it already, right? So I had a beautiful family. I have kids. They're doing great things. We're making good money, and we had a pretty good life. That's for sure. But now that I know better, I know that life was not great. But at the time, it looked like it was better than most people around me, and that was my measure of how well I was doing. And I say that because most people that are listening right now still measure where you are based on the people you hang around with, right? So in the past, if somebody told me that they were making 300,000 a year, I'd be like, wow, oh my goodness, that's amazing, right? Last 2 months, the company paid me over $300,000. Last 31 days. This last 31 days. And I started thinking like, wow, it's a
Let's
lot.
slow down a bit. Let's slow down a bit because people may lose that. So, when you and your wife were working prior to entering the financial services industry, she a remarkable registered nurse, you an executive in Silicon Valley, working with scientists and doctors on medical device technologies for our bodies. You combined were earning in excess of almost what, 400,000
Up to
a year?
500,000, yes, depending
Okay.
on, yeah.
And so last month you earned over 300,000 net,
Yes,
just 1 month.
yes.
Okay, just want people to understand the difference.
So last 30 days, 31 days to be exact, right? And I'm thinking to myself, when somebody tells me I make 300,000 a year and it's a lot of money, it's like, who are you comparing it to? That also means that what most of us don't understand the concept of leverage, right? Because the first time somebody told me they were making 80,000 a month, I was like, that's impossible based on my understanding of how time is used. Makes sense. So my understanding was I have 24 hours a day to get paid. So I can project what I'm going to get paid per hour. And it didn't make sense for somebody to tell me to make 80,000 a month. The same way that if I said that what I just said right now, most people will immediately dismiss it. And I totally get that. Because your mind does not allow you to accept something that doesn't make sense to you. But when you understand the concept of leverage, you start to look at everything different. Take someone like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, right? Super wealthy, but they have one head, two eyes, one mouth, just like you and I. So what makes them different? They understood the power of leverage. That's it. It's nothing more than that, right? So I'm just saying to say, no one, if you understand what is possible, your life will be significantly different than what it is right now. And that's why I love what we do, Dr. Webb, is what empowering people to dream about something bigger, right? I know you talk about the vision that we have. The truth is that in business, there are three elements that anyone needs to win. Okay. And I started making this point because it's key. You need to have a vision. You have to think at the third level. You have vision, you have to have a mission, and then a system. So if I take someone like Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg, what did they start their business with? They started with a vision, right? They want to change the world. They have a mission to help people. So guess what they spend their time doing? Building a system. You have to have those three elements. Now, in what Dr. Webb and I do, we're very fortunate that we get given a mission that says no family left behind. And we also have a system given to us. Guess what they don't give you? The vision. Okay, that's why I talk about my vision all the time. Why? I need that to add to the mission and the system to be able to have a successful business. So what's my vision? It's very simple. Three elements. Number one, instead of allowing the system to keep using our communities, we've decided that we're going to educate and empower people to make smarter financial decisions so we can leverage the system and add trillions of dollars of wealth to our own communities. We're doing that right now. In fact, one of the companies I just checked, we added over $3 billion already of wealth to our community. Just one company out of like 70 that we work with, right? That's the first element. Second element, this is more personal for me. I said that when I grew up in Africa, nobody told me how to become wealthy. They said you're a little bit smart, so go do science, get a degree, get a good job. So I did, right? But now that I know better, I made a commitment that I'm going to go back in the next decade and help 10% of 1.3 billion people in Africa become financially free. That is starting right here in the United States, where I am right now, right? I just want you to think, if you listen to me, what kind of impact that will have if 130 million Africans were financially free, right? Seriously, right? Then the last thing is, what in this country, without a financial license, you are not allowed to share the financial concepts. 95% probably of people in this country have no access to a licensed financial professional, so they never hear the information that they're supposed to know. So we're on a mission to get as many people have a financial license so they improve their financial awareness. That's what we teach. That's what we're very passionate about what we do. Because I believe if we do those three things, we're going to change the world for sure. And it's happening as I'm speaking to you right now. Why? The Bible says that where there's no vision, people are going to perish. But that also means when you have a vision, you cannot perish. And I say this to everyone, and it's very true. This vision that I'm sharing right now is going to be written in books. They're going to make movies about it. So you are going to read about it somehow.
Without a doubt. And there will be a remarkable, at least one movie and likely several movies. And so Nabila writes, and she's on it, there will be no GoFundMe. And let me just compliment her and saying it's invaluable to have platforms where people can request of others help. It's even more valuable to be able to invest or place your resources, even if you think they're limited. You just go without ice cream one week, go without some coffee the next week. But for a marginal amount of money or nominal amount of money, you can set it aside and have what you need to build legacy, have what you need in order to do what you need to do in relationship to your life, your family, or even your business, and what you want to do in relationship to your life, your family, your business. And I say it in those three orders because you've got to take care of you so that you can be there to take care of your family in a very healthy and remarkable way. If you're just harming yourself because you're giving all of what you have away and you're not recovering, you're not restoring, you're not really edifying your physical, your emotional, your spiritual well-being, you're not going to be around here long to be able to leverage, take advantage of what you yourself have built on, ideally on behalf of those you love and on behalf of an organization you care about. So I want to go a little bit further. And so, oh, I love this, Judith. Judith writes, changing lives every day, one family at a time. And that's what Dr. Kwende, that's what our teams do. That's what we're about. We're not we won't focus on what we're not about. We'll let you figure that out. We are 100% about making certain that people who have no legacy, have no idea of what financial wealth might look like for their family, well, we help them sit down and figure that out. And everything we do complementary. So we do not ask for resources from our clients. That is the powerful and profound nature of what we do. Nothing goes into our pockets from our clients. If our clients need something, it goes directly into whatever they choose to place it in. But let me back up a little bit. So think of this. Imagine you have $10,000 and you're trying to figure out what to do with it. You're 29 years old. I know a lot of you are like, what do you mean? That was years ago. But let's just imagine you have a 29-year-old and you set it aside and someone told you about an account. You leveraged Dr. Kwende, myself, or one of our team members, and you found, oh, wow, I'm going to try this. It's in writing. I've got evidence that this is what it's going to do. Well, by 71, that individual could have well over $1 million with a 12% return. That's what we're talking about. Time. What are we talking about? Placing into accounts that earn a higher rate of return than inflation, guarantees or ensures that you're in a better situation than you would otherwise be if you just leverage tools that were not about your goals. Or what about taking $1 and doubling it 20 times? Each time you double it, it's taxed. What's the approximate amount of money you'd earn? You'd earn some money. It's about $28,000, if my math is correct. I may be off a little bit. What if you weren't taxed on that $1 that is doubled 20 times? It's over $1 million. What we're talking about is how to understand how to leverage whatever you have to grow, using that basic equation that we showed initially, but much more than that, really leveraging folks who are licensed financial professionals. And if you want to leverage us, we're here. We welcome it. But most importantly, we want you to understand the time value of your resources, your money. We want you to place that dollar in a smart set of accounts or account that you can protect, use sound strategies, and experience tax advantage consequences. There's so much more that's coming to mind. Before I forget, I want to share something else. We're offering an online session for business owners. And so if you're available on Sunday from 2 to 3:30 or on Monday from 4 to 5:30, join us. Take a screenshot of this. You can register through Eventbrite. Just use the QR code there or go to that particular bit.ly link. Take advantage of it. We're going to go into even more detail with business owners. So take advantage, leverage us. Dr. Kwende, when you think about what we've shared, what's uppermost on your mind that you want to really leave as practical insights for folks or keynotes to highlight?
Well, what I would say is that in a nutshell, right, what we do is to empower ordinary people to make smart financial decisions by doing three things. Number one, they have to learn basic financial concepts. That's why we show the wealth equation. You have to understand the concepts, right? Number two, you have to know that you have financial options. So we introduce you to tailored strategies because everyone's at a different point in their lives. Some people have kids, some people don't, some people are close to retirement, some people are young. You kind of have to have tailored strategies for your own personal needs, right? That's something we do. It's called a financial health check or financial need analysis to help you see where you are. And then lastly, we introduce you to products from trusted brands so that you can reposition your money and get significantly more benefits. In a nutshell, that's all we do.
Here's our contact information. Take a screenshot. Feel free to contact us at your convenience. We're available. We do this all the time. We have a passion for what we do. We love to be in service and of service. Our mission is such that our vision rather is such that our mission requires that we build If you want to be part of our teams, because we're doing remarkable work, making a difference, and enjoying the process and living the faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun that we talk about, we're living it. Literally. Right, Dr. Kwende?
Absolutely. Yes.
Contact us. And more importantly, do what's best for you. That's what it's always about. In a way that adds value to your loved ones, makes a difference for the businesses that you lead, you're part of, and the communities that we serve. When one of us is healthier, we're all healthier. I'll leave it at that. And always say much gratitude to all of you for choosing to tune in. And it's an honor to work with you, Dr. Kwende. An absolute joy and honor to know that you, your wife, your family, your team, and the rest of us are here doing this very important and absolutely gratifying work.
Thanks, Dr. Webb. You know how much I appreciate you and everything you did to make it possible for us to talk. And I know you don't just talk just about this. You have a lot of other, people that come to your platform, Lead Life. And for me, it's a huge privilege to be a part of this. So I want to thank you for making this possible.
My honor. Why don't? See you next week, folks.